I never thought my story would start with a knock from the police. You know those moments you think only happen to other people, the kind that make you grab your phone and scroll Reddit for comfort? Yeah, that was me. It was a Sunday morning about 9 a.m. I was in my robe, coffee in hand, when I heard it, that heavy, official knock that makes your stomach drop. I opened the door and found two uniformed officers standing there. One of them asked, "Are you Mrs. Daniels?" I said yes, and he gave me this look, that kind of gentle, rehearsed sympathy people use when they're about to deliver bad news. Then he said, "We're here regarding your husband, Mark Daniels. He's been reported missing." My first thought was, missing? That had to be a mistake. Mark wasn't missing. He was somewhere being Mark, maybe golfing, maybe sulking in the garage because I asked him to fold laundry. He had a talent for disappearing when it suited him, but missing? No. Still, the officer explained that Mark's coworkers had reported him missing after he failed to show up for work all week and hadn't answered calls or texts. His car wasn't at the office lot either. And that's when I realized I hadn't actually seen him in 4 days. He'd left Wednesday night, muttering something about needing space and going to sort his head out with the guys. It wasn't the first time. Lately, the guys had become his favorite excuse. I'd even joked that they were starting to sound like his second marriage. But 4 days without a text? Not even his usual half-hearted, "I'm fine, stop worrying" message? That wasn't like him. The police asked me if there'd been any arguments. Yes, the usual, about bills, his drinking, and him spending too much time at the pub. They asked if he'd been under stress. Also yes, apparently life was so hard for him now that he had to load his own dishwasher. Then they asked if I could provide a recent photo. As I was scrolling through my camera roll, it hit me how few pictures I actually had of him lately. The last one was from a barbecue 2 months ago, where he looked annoyed to be standing next to me. I remember that night. He'd spent most of it texting under the table, claiming it was fantasy football. I gave them the photo, answered a few more questions, and they left, promising to keep me updated. The door shut behind them, and I just stood there, staring at the quiet house. And that's when it really hit me. If Mark was missing, why didn't I feel scared? I just felt tired. After the police left, I did what any normal person would do. I sat on the couch, stared at the wall, and tried to figure out how my husband managed to go missing without me noticing. I pulled up our texts, scrolling through our last conversation. The last message I'd sent was, "Don't forget to take out the trash before you go." His reply had been, "K, might be out late." That was it. No goodbye, no explanation. Just a K. Classic Mark. But then I noticed something weird. He'd read my messages over the next few days. I could see the scene receipts, but never replied. Even after I sent, "Are you alive?" and then, "Mark, it's been 2 days. Should I worry, or are you sulking again?" He saw them. He just didn't answer. I started going through our shared accounts, credit cards, bank app, everything. If he was truly missing, maybe there'd be a trail. That's when things got interesting. 3 transactions from the last 2 days popped up on our joint card. A gas station 1 town over. A cheap motel 2 hours away. And, most insultingly, a $47 charge at Applebee's. Applebee's. The man was missing but had time to order mozzarella sticks and probably flirt with a waitress who pretended to laugh at his dad jokes. At first, I tried to convince myself there was a reasonable explanation. Maybe he was staying there for work stuff. Maybe he'd gotten too drunk and didn't want to drive home. But then I checked the motel's name, the Ridgeview Inn. I'd heard that name before. It's the same motel he once joked about using if he ever needed to get away from me nagging about laundry. So I called. The woman at the front desk was polite but hesitant. When I asked if Mark Daniels was staying there, she paused for a moment and said, "I can't share guest information, ma'am." But then she slipped. She added, "If you're trying to reach him, he left a few hours ago with his friend." Friend. My blood went cold. I asked, "What friend?" She replied softly, "I think her name was Emily." Emily. That name punched the air out of me. Because Emily wasn't some random stranger. She was our neighbor's niece, a 26-year-old who had just moved into the area last year. I'd seen Mark helping her fix her car in our driveway a few times, shirt conveniently off, pretending he knew anything about engines. That's when everything started to click. The late nights. The extra cologne. The sudden gym membership that lasted a whole week. He wasn't missing. I spent that night pacing the living room like a detective in my own marriage. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach flipped. Half of me wanted it to be the police with an update, the other half wanted it to be Mark, so I could finally let him have it. At around 11:45 p.m., my phone finally rang. No caller ID. My heart stopped. I answered, and before I could say anything, I heard that familiar, annoyingly casual voice. "Hey babe, you're probably freaking out, huh?" Babe. I swear, I went from panic to fury in under 3 seconds. "Mark, where the hell are you? The police were here today. They think you're missing." He actually laughed. "Oh, come on. That's ridiculous. I just needed some space. I didn't think you'd, call the cops." "I didn't," I snapped. "Your work did. Because apparently, you vanished off the face of the earth." He sighed dramatically, like I was inconveniencing him. "God, Laura, you're always so intense. I told you I needed time to clear my head. You blow everything up." I could hear chatter and music in the background. Not bar music, though. Softer. Maybe a hotel TV. Or someone else's voice. A woman's. "Who's there with you?" I asked. "No one," he said immediately, too quickly. "I'm just watching TV." Geez. Do you have to interrogate me all the time? Classic Mark move. Deflect, insult, guilt trip. I was shaking. "You're staying at the Ridgeview Inn, aren't you?" Silence. Then, like a little kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar, he said, "What?"
No.
What even is that? Sounds fancy. Ridgeview Inn was about as fancy as a gas station bathroom. He was lying and badly. I felt my throat tighten. They saw you there, Mark. With Emily. He went quiet for a few beats, then gave a pathetic little laugh. Oh, come on, Laura. Emily's just a friend. She needed help with her car and we got stuck, that's all. God, you're so paranoid. Paranoid? The police came to my house. You've been gone for 4 days. And then the cherry on top. Well, maybe if you didn't make home feel like an interrogation room, I wouldn't have needed a break. That one actually hurt. Deep. I don't even remember what I said next. Something about him being selfish, pathetic, cowardly. He hung up on me mid-sentence. And that was it. No apology. No explanation. Just me, standing in the middle of my living room, realizing my missing husband wasn't missing at all. He was hiding from me to go play pretend boyfriend with a girl half my age. I didn't sleep that night. I just stared at the ceiling, wondering how someone could lie so easily and still sound bored doing it. The next morning, I looked like a ghost. Puffy eyes, hair in a bun that could have qualified as a crime scene itself. I hadn't slept. My stomach hurt from too much coffee and zero food, but I didn't care. I was running on spite and disbelief. Around 8:30 a.m., there was another knock on the door, the same heavy, official kind that had started this whole nightmare. 2 officers again, one of them the same man from before. He gave me that polite professional nod. Mrs. Daniels, we just wanted to follow up. Has there been any contact with your husband? Oh, had there ever. I motioned for them to come in, grabbed my phone, and said, yes. He's not missing. He's hiding. They both looked surprised, like maybe I'd lost it overnight. I pulled up the call log, the motel transactions, everything. I told them about Emily, about the motel, about his need for space. The younger officer muttered, seriously? Under his breath. The older one sighed. So he's alive and well, just not wanting to be found. Exactly, I said, voice shaking.
He's fine.
He's just a coward. They exchanged a look. Apparently, they'd seen this before. Husbands going missing to skip bills, cheat, or just start fresh somewhere else. I felt both stupid and furious that I'd been dragged into that cliché. The older officer said gently, we'll update the report. Once he contacts us directly, we'll close the case. But you should know, if he's using your joint account for this, you can freeze it. That was the first piece of actually useful advice I'd gotten in days. As soon as they left, I opened my laptop, logged into the bank app, and froze the account so fast, I swear I heard Mark's future tantrum echo in the distance. It felt good, really good. Like reclaiming a little bit of power he'd chipped away at for years with his sarcasm and half-truths. But later that afternoon, when I checked my voicemail, there it was, his message.
Wow, Laura.
Real classy. You froze the account? I literally can't even get gas now. You could have just talked to me instead of acting like the FBI.
Talk to you?
You mean the man who pretended to vanish off the face of the earth? The one who dragged the police into his midlife crisis? I laughed, loud, and a little bit crazy. Because the thing about Mark was, he always thought he was the clever one. The smooth talker. The guy who could twist any story until he looked like the victim. But not this time. This time, he'd gone too far, and I wasn't just going to sit there and wait for him to come crawling back with his usual fake apology and sad puppy eyes. I had a plan. By the time I finished listening to Mark's whiny voicemail, something inside me just flipped. I'd spent days crying, worrying, explaining myself to police officers, blaming me for his childish vanishing act. And there he was, acting like I was the villain because I froze the joint account he was using to fund his little motel getaway.
No.
Absolutely not. I wasn't going to be the gullible, panicked wife anymore. I was going to be the plot twist. So, I made coffee, grabbed a notebook, and started writing everything down, dates, receipts, screenshots, text logs, bank transactions. You know how they say when women get quiet, that's when you should worry?
Yeah.
I was in that mode. I even called the Ridgeview and myself again, pretending to be Emily's sister. The woman at the front desk hesitated, then said, oh, the couple in 214? They checked out this morning. Couple. As in 2 people. As in my husband, and the woman he'd apparently decided was more fun than his actual wife. But here's the thing, I wasn't going to confront him yet. No, I wanted him to think he still had the upper hand. I called my friend Jenna, who's basically my personal FBI, and told her everything. She immediately said, let's find out where they went next. Within 2 hours, she'd found his car, still on the GPS tracker we'd set up ages ago for insurance reasons. He was about an hour away, parked outside a diner near the highway. And that's when my plan took shape. I called Mark. He didn't answer, of course. Then, I texted him. Police came back today. They think something's off with your story. Call me, or they'll come looking for you again. It took him 8 minutes to reply. What the hell are you talking about? What story? I didn't answer. Let him stew. An hour later, my phone buzzed. He was calling, his voice all frantic and defensive. You can't just say stuff like that. Do you want to get me in trouble? Oh, you mean trouble for faking a missing person report and lying to law enforcement? I said, my voice steady. Because that's kind of what happens when your wife thinks you've been kidnapped, but really you're at Applebee's with someone half your age. He stammered, actually stammered. I wasn't with her like that, Laura. She's just going through stuff, and I was being supportive. Supportive? You support people by sharing a motel bed. It wasn't like that. You always twist everything. I almost laughed. Twist everything. That was his favorite line, projection at its finest. He started going off about how I'd embarrassed him, how I was making a scene. Like he was the victim of all this. It was honestly comedic if it didn't hurt so much. Then I said something I didn't plan, but I meant every word of it. Mark, if you want to disappear, that's fine. But don't expect me to sit here waiting when the police are the only ones who seem to care where you are. And I hung up. 10 minutes later, he texted, "You'll regret this." I didn't even reply, because for the first time in our marriage, he was the one scared of losing me. 2 days after that last call, my doorbell rang again. Not the cops this time. Not the mail.
Mark.
I saw him through the peephole first. Same worn leather jacket, same stupid smirk he wore when he wanted to look like the reasonable one. I didn't open the door right away. I wanted him to sweat. He rang again, then knocked.
Laura.
"I know you're home. Come on. This is ridiculous." Ridiculous. This from the man who pretended to go missing. I finally opened the door, just enough for him to see me standing there with crossed arms. He gave me that fake sheepish grin.
Wow.
"You look tired." "I'm exhausted, Mark," I said flatly. "You know, from dealing with the police because my husband decided to go on vacation without telling anyone." He huffed and rubbed the back of his neck. "It wasn't a vacation. I just needed to clear my head, okay? Things between us have been tense." "Yeah," I said. "Probably because you're living a double life." He blinked, like he hadn't expected me to say it out loud. "Oh my God, Laura, seriously? You think I'm cheating?" I didn't even bother answering. I just turned my phone toward him and showed him the motel receipts, his location history, and that sweet little Applebee's transaction. He froze. His mouth opened, closed, then opened again. "You went through my stuff? Wow. That's actually crazy, Laura." Crazy. He called me crazy. I could practically feel my blood pressure rise. "Mark," I said slowly, "you made the police think you were dead. You made me think you were dead. And all because you couldn't admit you were having an affair with a woman who still uses Instagram filters shaped like hearts." His face flushed. "You don't know anything about her." That told me everything I needed to know. He stepped inside like he still owned the place, heading straight to the fridge for a drink, as if nothing had happened. The audacity was Olympic level. "You froze the joint account, by the way," he said, opening a soda. "Not cool." "I froze it," I replied, "because I didn't feel like funding your romantic weekend getaways." He rolled his eyes. "You're blowing this way out of proportion. I didn't even sleep with her, okay? We were just talking." "Talking," I said. "In a motel room. Overnight." He shrugged. "We fell asleep watching TV. You know how I get when I drink." I almost laughed. "So you accidentally cheated?" That made him snap. He slammed the can down and said, "You always have to make me the bad guy, don't you?" The silence that followed was thick, the kind where you know something just broke, and there's no fixing it. Finally, I said, "Mark, I'm done." He blinked. "Done with what?" "With this marriage. With your excuses. With pretending I don't see what's right in front of me." He laughed, this disbelieving, smug little laugh. "You're not serious. You wouldn't actually." But then he saw my suitcase by the door. And for once, Mark Daniels shut up. He stood there staring at the suitcase like it was a bomb about to go off. I swear, I'd never seen him so quiet. Mark Daniels, the man who always had a comeback, a twist, a "you misunderstood me," ready to go, was speechless. Finally, he said, "You're really going to leave? Over this?" I laughed, the kind of laugh that comes out when you've cried too much to cry anymore. "Over this? You mean over the fact that you lied, ran away, pretended to be missing, and let the police think you might be dead? Or that you were actually shacked up with a girl who still says vibes, unironically?" He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "You're being dramatic, Laura. I told you it wasn't like that." "Oh, right," I said. "You just accidentally disappeared for a week and checked into a motel with a woman who's not your wife. Happens all the time." He frowned. "You're twisting it again. You always." "No, Mark," I interrupted. "You twisted it. You twisted everything. The truth, our marriage, even how you make me feel like I'm losing my mind every time you lie and call it a misunderstanding." He tried to laugh, but it came out flat. "You're not really going anywhere. You'll cool off and realize we just need space." That's when I picked up the suitcase handle and said, "That's exactly what I'm giving you, space." He blinked like he couldn't process it. "Wait, Laura, where are you even gonna go?" I didn't know him that answer, but I said it anyway. "Somewhere peaceful. Somewhere where no one calls me crazy for expecting loyalty." Then I walked past him, and I swear, the sound of that suitcase rolling across the floor was louder than any fight we'd ever had. He didn't follow me out the door. Not right away, anyway. He just stood there, probably assuming I'd stop on the porch, turn around, and apologize like I always did. But this time I didn't. I got in my car, started the engine, and didn't look back. I could see him in the rearview mirror, standing in the doorway like a man watching his safety net drive away. For the first time in years, I felt something close to relief. Not joy, not triumph, just relief. Halfway down the street, my phone buzzed. A text from Mark. "You're really doing this? Over a misunderstanding." Then another. "Fine. Do what you want. Don't come crawling back when you realize you overreacted." I didn't respond. I turned the phone off. And for the first time since that knock on my door, I felt completely still. I stayed with my friend Jenna for the first few nights after I left. Her spare room smelled like lavender and safety. She handed me wine, made me pasta, and didn't ask too many questions. Just sat there while I slowly unraveled the mess I'd been holding together for years. It was almost peaceful, until Mark started blowing up my phone. At first it was the usual. "Can we talk? You're making this worse than it is." I didn't cheat, Laura. I just needed space. Then, when I didn't reply,
Wow.
"Real mature. You're really going to destroy everything we built?" You're the one walking away, not me. It was the same pattern I'd fallen for every time. He'd do something awful, I'd pull away, and he'd flip it so I was the problem. But this time, reading his messages, I didn't feel guilty. I just felt done. By day 3, the tone changed. He left me a voicemail, one I'll never forget. You made your point, Laura. You embarrassed me enough already. Everyone at work knows what you did, freezing the account, telling the cops, airing our business. Do you even realize how that makes me look? I actually laughed out loud when I heard that part. He was worried about how he looked. Then came the final line, quiet but cold. You'll regret this. You always come back, and when you do, don't expect me to be waiting. That was when I realized something profound. He didn't miss me. He missed having control over me. A few days later, I got a text from an unknown number. A picture. Mark's car parked outside her apartment, Emily's. The caption just said, "He's been here every night." Jenna raised an eyebrow when she saw it. So much for not cheating, huh? I nodded, my stomach twisting, but there was no heartbreak this time, just confirmation. The kind that hurts differently but cleaner somehow. The next morning, I called a lawyer. I didn't tell Mark. I didn't warn him. I just quietly filed for divorce. That night, he called again. I let it go to voicemail. Okay, Laura, I get it. You're mad. But come on, this is us. You really think some stupid mistake changes that? I'll come home tomorrow, and we'll talk like adults, alright? I listened, then deleted it. Because by then, I knew something he didn't. I wasn't waiting for him to come home. I was finally building a home that didn't include him. Filing the paperwork felt surreal. I thought it would feel heavier, like signing a death certificate for the life we built. But honestly, it felt like air. Like unclenching a fist I didn't realize I'd been holding for years. My lawyer, a calm woman named Dana with a voice like she'd seen every kind of marital disaster, slid the forms across the desk and said, "You've already done the hardest part, leaving." She was right. Everything after that felt strangely easy. Mark, of course, didn't see it that way. When he was served the divorce papers, my phone exploded again. At least 5 missed calls, 3 voicemails, and a string of texts that started angry, turned sentimental, and ended manipulative. His signature trifecta. Are you insane? You're seriously divorcing me over nothing? Laura, this isn't you. You're emotional right now. You need to calm down before you do something you'll regret. Oh, that one.
Calm down.
I swear, men like him weaponize those 2 words like daggers. When I didn't reply, he sent another. I already told everyone it was just a misunderstanding. You're making yourself look crazy. That actually made me laugh. Because I wasn't making myself look crazy, I just stopped making him look good. 3 days later, he showed up at Jenna's place. I saw his car pull up from the window, same one I'd seen parked at Emily's. He knocked on the door, louder each time. Jenna whispered, "Do you want me to call the cops?" I shook my head.
No.
I want to do this myself. I opened the door. He looked tired. Not remorseful, just tired. His hair was messy, his eyes bloodshot, but not from crying. Probably from late nights convincing himself he was the victim. "You really served me papers, huh?" he said. "That's how little this meant to you. This marriage stopped meaning anything to you when you checked into that motel, Mark." He scoffed. "God, you're still on that? You're obsessed." "It was one night. One night too many," I said quietly. He stared at me like he was trying to find the version of me that used to back down. But she wasn't there anymore. "You'll regret this," he said finally. "You can't just walk away from someone who loves you." "Loves me?" I said. "Mark, you don't even like me. You just like that I stayed." He opened his mouth, then shut it again, and for the first time, he had no comeback. I stepped back, holding the door. "You should go. And don't come here again. Next time, I will call the cops." He hesitated, searching my face for something, fear, guilt, doubt, but found nothing. Just resolve. Then he muttered, "You're making a mistake," and walked back to his car. When he drove off, I realized my hands weren't shaking. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like the one being left behind. I never set out to get revenge. I honestly just wanted peace, something quiet, steady, unremarkable. But apparently, karma has her own sense of timing, and she doesn't always whisper when she arrives. It started with a phone call from one of Mark's coworkers, a guy named Darren, who I barely knew but had always been polite at company events. He sounded hesitant. "Hey, Laura, sorry if this is weird, but, did you know Mark's been under investigation at work?" My heart skipped. "What do you mean, investigation?" He sighed. "Apparently, he's been expensing personal stuff, dinners, hotel stays, gas receipts. HR found out last week. They're auditing his account." My stomach twisted, but not out of surprise, out of recognition. Because of course he was. Mark had always been careless with lies. He treated them like spare change, tossing them around everywhere he went. Darren continued. "They were asking about a weekend trip last month. He said it was a work retreat, but they can't find any record of it. I thought maybe you'd know." That work retreat was the week he went missing. The week the police knocked on my door. I couldn't help but laugh.
Yeah, Darren.
I know exactly where he was. Later that night, Jenna and I sat on the couch, sipping wine, half laughing, half in disbelief. "He really did this to himself," she said. "You didn't have to lift a finger." And she was right. I hadn't done anything. But karma? She was apparently working overtime. 2 days later, Mark called me again, voice frantic this time. "Laura, can you please just talk to them? Tell them we were, trying to work things out that week or something. They're making it sound like I was lying about the trip." I almost dropped my phone from laughing. "Mark, are you asking me to cover your lies again?" "It's not lies. It's just a misunderstanding." "There it is," I interrupted. The word that's ruined every ounce of trust one ever gave you. He sighed, frustrated. You're impossible. You're seriously going to let them fire me? I'm not letting them do anything. You did that yourself. Then I hung up. That night, I got another call, this time from a blocked number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. A woman's voice came through, small and shaky. Hi, is this Laura? This is Emily.
Oh.
Her. I didn't say anything, just waited. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know everything. He told me you two were separated. I found out about the police thing, and he's been blaming you. Of course he has, I said flatly. She hesitated. I think he's really losing it. He's been showing up at my place at weird hours, yelling about how everyone's turning on him. I just thought you should know. I thanked her, genuinely surprisingly, and hung up. When I told Jenna, she said, you couldn't have written this better if you tried. And honestly, she was right. I hadn't plotted revenge. I hadn't wished for his downfall. But when the truth started catching up to him, piece by piece, I didn't stop it either. Because for the first time, I realized something powerful. I didn't need revenge. I had freedom. And that was punishment enough for him. About 2 weeks after that last call, I woke up to another knock on the door, but this time, it wasn't the police. It was Mark. He looked awful. Like, genuinely unhinged. His shirt was wrinkled, eyes bloodshot, hair sticking up in every direction. He had this desperate energy, the kind that makes you instantly wary. Laura, please, he said as soon as I opened the door. Can I come in? Just for a second. I crossed my arms. What do you want, Mark? He sighed, rubbing his temples. Everything's gone to hell. They fired me, okay? HR said I violated policy. They're even threatening to press charges. And Emily, she blocked me. Said I lied too much.
Can you believe that?
I had to bite my lip to stop from laughing. Can I believe that?
Oh, yes.
More than he could imagine. He kept going, voice cracking between self-pity and blame. You know this all started because you wouldn't talk to me, right? You made me look bad to the cops, to my job, to everyone. You. Mark, I interrupted softly, stop. He blinked at me. What? Stop rewriting the story. You lied, disappeared, cheated, and let people think you were missing. You made your own mess. He shook his head, looking almost offended. You don't get it, do you? You were supposed to fix this. You were my wife. Those words hit like cold water. Because that's all I'd ever been to him, his fixer, his excuse, his shield. I took a deep breath and said, not anymore. That's when his tone changed. The anger slipped into panic. Look, I can change, all right? We can start over. I'll go to therapy, or whatever you want. Just don't make this permanent. He was crying now, real tears. But it didn't move me like it used to. Because I'd seen those tears before, every time he got caught. Mark, I said quietly, you don't want me. You want the version of me that kept forgiving you. But she's gone. He stared at me for a long moment, searching my face, then whispered, you'll regret this, Laura. I smiled, a small, calm smile that even surprised me. I already regretted staying. He froze, like he didn't have a script for that response. Then, without another word, he turned and walked down the driveway, his shoulders hunched like the weight of all his lies had finally settled in. I watched him go, not with hatred or sadness, but with the strangest, quietest sense of relief. When I closed the door, I realized something. That chapter of my life wasn't just ending. It was done. Completely, irrevocably done. I made a cup of tea, sat by the window, and let the silence fill the room. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for an apology, an explanation, or a lie. I was just waiting for peace. And this time, it was actually on its way. The first few weeks after he finally left for good felt strange. The house was so quiet it almost buzzed. No slamming doors, no muttered complaints, no sound of him pacing while he made excuses over the phone. Just silence. I used to hate silence. Now, I craved it. I didn't rush to fill the space he left behind. I didn't redecorate, didn't post some new chapter nonsense online. I just breathed. I started sleeping through the night again. I started cooking for one and actually enjoying it. I stopped checking my phone every time it buzzed, expecting another manipulation disguised as a text. The first weekend alone, I went out to the farmer's market. Something so simple, but it felt new. I bought fresh flowers, bright yellow tulips, and put them in the kitchen. They looked almost out of place in a house that had seen so many arguments, but I left them there anyway. That's when Jenna came over with a bottle of wine and her usual grin. So, she said, kicking off her shoes, how does it feel to be free? I thought about it for a second. Weird, I said honestly. Like I've been underwater for years and finally came up for air. She raised her glass. To breathing again. We clinked glasses and laughed, and for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel forced. Of course, life didn't just magically fix itself overnight. Some days, I still woke up with that instinct to check if Mark had texted. Old habits die hard. But then I'd remember, I didn't know him a single moment of my peace anymore. About a month later, I got a letter from my lawyer. The divorce had been finalized. I sat there staring at the envelope for a minute before I opened it. Just a few sheets of paper, but it might as well have been the closing credits to a movie I never wanted to star in. I signed what needed signing, sealed it, and walked to the mailbox. As I dropped it in, the sun hit just right. Warm, golden, the kind of light that makes even ordinary streets look hopeful. And right then, I realized, he might still be out there spinning his version of the story, telling anyone who'd listen that I was the villain. But it didn't matter. Because for once, I didn't need to explain my side. I was living it. I'd gone from the woman waiting by the door for answers to the one who didn't need them anymore. And that, I think, is what healing really looks like. It had been almost 2 months since the divorce was finalized when he texted me again. I was sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, watching some true crime documentary with Jenna, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. But I knew that tone before I even opened it. Mark, hey. Hope you're doing okay. Just wanted to say I've been thinking a lot lately. I stared at it for a second, then rolled my eyes so hard I could practically see my brain. Jenna glanced over. Don't tell me that's him. I handed her the phone.
She groaned.
Oh my god, he's one of those. I took the phone back, already half smiling. Because of course he was. He always came back when his life started to fall apart. Sure enough, another text popped up right after. Mark, I've been working on myself. I think about what we had, and I realize I threw away something real. I miss us. I couldn't help it. I started laughing. Not the bitter, exhausted kind of laugh I used to have, but a real one. Jenna nearly spit out her wine. He's quoting every bad breakup movie ever made, she said. Then came the final text. Mark, maybe we could grab a drink sometime?
Talk.
No pressure. I took a deep breath and, for a brief moment, considered saying something cutting, maybe something that would make him realize just how ridiculous he sounded.
But then I stopped myself.
Because, honestly, he wasn't worth even that. So instead, I typed one sentence. Mark, I wish you luck, but please lose my number. Then I hit block. I set the phone down and felt weightless. It was the first time I'd ended one of our conversations on my terms. No guilt, no tears, no second guessing. Just clarity. Jenna raised her glass. To closure. I smiled. To closure. We clinked glasses again, and that was it. No more texts. No more calls. No more shadows of a man who used to drain every bit of peace I had. And weirdly enough, the next morning I woke up lighter, like my body finally understood that the story was over. I even caught myself humming while I made coffee. The kind of normal, silly hum that fills quiet mornings. Something I hadn't done since before everything went wrong. For the first time, I wasn't the wife of the missing husband or the heartbroken woman sorting through lies. I was just me, and it felt pretty damn good. It was a quiet Thursday afternoon, one of those perfectly calm, boring days I used to dream about, when there was a knock at my door. For half a second, my stomach dropped. I thought, please, not him again. But when I looked through the peephole, it wasn't Mark. It was 2 police officers. For a moment, I just froze. The deja vu hit me like a wave. The last time cops had shown up at my door, they'd been asking about my missing husband. I opened the door cautiously. Can I help you? The older officer nodded politely. Ma'am, I'm sorry to bother you. We're looking for Mark Daniels. We understand he used to live here? My throat went dry. Used to, I said. We're divorced. I haven't seen him in months. They exchanged a look, that subtle, quiet glance cops give each other when something's not routine. Do you know where he might be? The younger one asked. No idea, I said truthfully.
Why?
What's going on? The older officer hesitated before replying. We just have some questions about a recent report. Nothing for you to worry about. Which, of course, immediately made me worry. After they left, I sat on the couch staring at the wall, my mind racing. What had he done now? Part of me didn't want to know, but another part, the one that had lived through his chaos for years, couldn't look away. That night, curiosity got the better of me. I texted Jenna. 2 cops came asking about Mark today. She replied instantly. Oh no. What did that idiot do this time? A few hours later, she sent me a link to a local news post, small town gossip page kind of thing. There it was. Local man under investigation for fraudulent expense reports. Former corporate employee accused of falsifying company funds and misreporting travel expenses over several months. The name, Mark Daniels. I stared at the screen, heart thudding, not in panic this time, but in disbelief that he'd actually managed to dig himself even deeper. It was almost poetic. He'd lied to everyone, his job, his mistress, the police, me, and now the whole web had finally caught up to him. I leaned back on the couch, letting out a long, shaky breath that turned into a laugh. A real, uncontrollable laugh. The kind that comes from years of pent-up chaos finally finding its punchline. Jenna called me right then. Did you see it? She asked, trying not to laugh herself. I swear, that man's allergic to honesty. Apparently, I said, still laughing. Looks like Karma's officially filed her paperwork. And just like that, it hit me. This was the real ending. Not the dramatic confrontation or the tearful goodbye, this. Watching from a distance while his lies finally collapsed under their own weight. I didn't feel vindicated or cruel. Just peaceful. Because I hadn't done anything to make it happen. The truth had done that all on its own. When the dust finally settled, it was almost eerie how quiet my life became. No more police knocking on my door. No more calls, no more drama, no more wondering what version of Mark's lies I'd have to survive next. Just silence. But it wasn't empty silence anymore. It was peaceful. I found myself rebuilding piece by piece, not in some movie montage kind of way, but in small, steady choices. I started therapy. I picked up my old sketchbook again. I got a part-time job at a local bookstore just because I liked the smell of coffee and paper. And slowly, the version of me that had disappeared, the one buried under years of gaslighting and exhaustion, started to come back. Every now and then, I'd hear snippets about Mark. That he'd lost his job completely. That Emily wanted nothing to do with him. That his missing husband stunt had turned him into a bit of a local joke. But I didn't laugh anymore. I didn't care. It wasn't my story to carry anymore. Because the truth is, when you spend enough time around someone who lies for sport, you start to lose your own sense of reality. You start doubting your instincts, your worth, your memories. And the cruelest part? You start apologizing for things you never did wrong. I think the real healing began when I stopped apologizing for leaving. When I realized I didn't need revenge. I didn't need closure. I just needed peace. And that's something he could never give me. Now, when people ask if I'd ever take him back, yes, apparently people still ask that, I just smile and say, you can't miss someone who never really showed up. Because Mark was never really there. Not in the moments that mattered. He was always performing for his friends, for his coworkers, for me. And when his act finally fell apart, all that was left was the truth. And me, standing on the other side of it, free. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's this. When someone keeps disappearing from your life, emotionally, physically, morally, stop waiting for them to come back. Let them stay gone. Because sometimes losing someone who lies is the only way to find yourself again. And trust me, it's the best peace you'll ever know.